Oh, I am nervous and scared to do this video, but let's go. Hi, I'm Steve Saylor. I'm blind, and if you're wondering how I'm able to play video games if I'm blind, if you take a look at the video here, or if it's not there, click the link in the description down below to see exactly what I see when I'm playing video games. So if you saw the title of this video, I ask that you bear with me. There's going to be a lot of what I'm going to be talking about when it comes to Demon Souls and these type of games and difficulty options and easy mode. And I ask that you just watch with an open mind, so because I do have a lot that I want to be able to say, and I did have an epiphany about Demon Souls and accessibility that I do want to be able to share. And I know there's going to be two different types of people watching this video. There are going to be people that are fans of Souls type games and are either adamant or concerned about difficulty options being added in, that it would sort of change the core gameplay of these type of games. And then there's going to be people on the accessibility side who want to be able to have an easy mode or difficulty options in these type of games. And I want to explain kind of where I'm at, and I'm kind of sitting in the middle of this. And I want to thank my dear friend and mentor, Cherry Thompson, who is the accessibility project manager at Ubisoft. I had a conversation with Cherry about this particular game, and I am really excited to be able to kind of share the epiphany I had when talking to them about this. And also, I do want to promote, Cherry has an amazing article about 2 years ago on IGN when this kind of conversation came up about Sekiro. I'll link to that in the description down below because I finally understand what they were discussing in that article, and I want to share that with you. So first off, I do want to be able to thank Sony for sending over a Demon Souls code for me to be able to play this on the PlayStation 5. So thank you, Sony, for that. I actually wasn't going to review this game. I wasn't going to be doing an impressions video of this game, but there is something that I'm working on that essentially kind of forced me to jump into this. And in a way, I was kind of glad that I got that push to be able to play this, mainly because I actually was, even though I was nervous and afraid to jump into this, because knowing the conversation that has been happening for the past few years about difficulty options in these type of games, there has been a lot of harassment. There has been a lot of abusive people online that have really sort of trolled a lot of my friends in this space, and there's been a lot of heated arguments that I was also kind of roiled up in it, and I'm afraid to be able to jump into it again. But I think I actually now at least understand like where we're all coming from. Hopefully we can get to a point where we can have a peaceful conversation about this. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do have hope. So when I did start kind of playing this, and I played this for a couple hours, and I will say I haven't gotten to any boss fights other than the very beginning in the tutorial level. I've been in the Gates of Boletaria for quite a while, and I have yet to really get past a certain point in the game, and I had a real difficult time trying to be able to play this. But what I did learn, though, was that I get it. I understand the challenge and the difficulty of it, the rush of adrenaline when you defeat a particular enemy that has been troubling you for past several times, or also on the opposite side, when you fail and then you realize the solution to defeat that enemy, and it's like, oh man, now you gotta go back to the beginning again, and then you start over and you try and you get to that point again. So that whole looping mechanic of the difficulty of the challenge, I understand that. I understand the draw to that. I understand the appeal of that. And I also had to sort of have the conversation with myself at first. Okay, would difficulty options fit in here? Would difficulty options make this game more enjoyable, or the challenge of the loop of the learning and dying and kind of coming back to, like, it just keep going over and over and over again? Would that benefit from a difficulty options? And this has sort of been a hot topic even recently, when the developer has said that there is no difficulty options in this game, nor should it be. So I was trying to figure out, okay, well, what is it about this? Would difficulty options help? The difficulty options is not the problem in this genre of games. Having that in there would be more like a crowbar into the gameplay itself. It would essentially kind of, yes, it would benefit disabled players. Difficulty options generally do in most games, but difficulty options does its best work when it is working with a story, when it is allowing the player to be able to enjoy a story of the game, to be able to complete from beginning to end. And that sort of Tupperware container that these difficulty options are in essentially add parameters that makes it more accessible for disabled players to be able to enjoy and complete the story. There is a story in Demon's Souls, and that's kind of the sort of the framework around what I think is the core gameplay of this particular genre, in that the core gameplay is the difficulty, is the challenge. So when I say that having difficulty options would be a crowbar into the gameplay itself, it would actually fundamentally change what this game is like. I do agree with that. It would benefit, and I'm not to sort of, I don't want to dissuade developers from wanting to be able to experiment and try different difficulty options in these kind of games, because I think that there still can be potential amazing work done in that. But in its current form of what we know of as difficulty options, it would essentially change the core gameplay of it. So with that being said, if difficulty options is not the solution, is not the problem of these type of games, what is it about this game that makes it inaccessible for disabled players? There is a language within Demon's Souls that the game does not teach the player what it is, or how to be able to learn this language. A lot of people can sort of say, well, there's a tutorial level that teaches you how to play the game. That's not what I'm talking about. A tutorial in this sense, and I played through the tutorial, it teaches you what buttons to push. It doesn't teach you the language of figuring out what each enemy type is and how to be able to come at that enemy in a strategic way that will make you successful in defeating that particular challenge. Now, some people argue that yes, the game does teach you that language because it does teach you from dying and coming back, and learning strategies as you go. And yes, it does, but that challenge and that language is more difficult for disabled players, because a lot of times physically disabled players is not able to learn that language fluently to be able to complete this game. Because for those who do enjoy this game and do well in this game, it may take you about 100 tries to be able to complete the game, or defeat a particular boss, or defeat a particular enemy. For disabled players, like that sort of 100 tries can sometimes even be doubled, because it can take a physical toll on those players it makes it extremely difficult and frustrating, and there adds a lot of barriers in trying to be able to play. So to kind of give an example of what I'm talking about, there are particular moments when I was playing this where I felt like I was fighting an enemy and I would hit a button to either dodge out of the way or parry or block, and I felt that my the time it took for me to be able to hit the button and the character to react, it felt like that I was like everything was delayed, like there was a bit of lag when pushing that button, and oftentimes that mistake or that delay would either make me lose a lot of health, or I would die instantly from that, what would be considered a mistake. Now, I sort of thought that delay was kind of my fault, that I wasn't reacting fast enough, because normally in these type of situations, there would be particular animations that would happen, that visual cues or audio cues that a disabled player will be able to pick up and will be able to know, okay, this enemy is about to do this particular attack, and the only way to get past it is to either dodge or parry or block. I need to hit this button now to make sure that this does not like defeat me or kill me in any way. The tricky part of it is that there is an animation for it, but by the time that animation starts, it's already too late. So as a player, you are meant to anticipate what that enemy is about to do, and there is a pattern to it. And oftentimes that trying to anticipate what an enemy is about to do there is sometimes a physical delay that is preventing the player to be able to anticipate that. Whether it's a cognitive disability that sort of that prevents you from sort of like seeing or hearing a particular like animation or particular sound, or physically you can see that you can anticipate, you may be able to anticipate, but because you are because you have difficulty playing a game with your hands or with controls, and you have a motor disability, that signal that comes from your brain down to your hands to try to be able to react, there is something physically that is blocking you from being able to do that, and you're not able to anticipate, you're not able to react in time. So oftentimes when you do play it, it does feel like I am not fast enough, I'm not able to anticipate, I'm not able to react, and the delay of that sort of action comes in, and it feels like that you are lagging behind. That is something that is not taught to the player unless you are able to get to that point where you're trying it several times and you're trying to learn that pattern. But by the time that you have failed in trying to figure out that pattern, you have either done it so many times that it becomes frustrating for a disabled player to kind of get to that point where they would find that game inaccessible, where for other players who do not have a disability, that is part of the challenge of learning, and you're able to pick that up because there's something physically that is not preventing you from being able to anticipate that action. Now, there are other areas in the game that the game doesn't teach you the language of its gameplay, and that's in regards to signposting, which is something that you look at an area in a game or you hear about an area and you either unlock it later on via either discovery or through an ability, and it will take you back to that particular point, and then you can loop back around again. This game does have that in regards to shortcuts, but I didn't see where that shortcut was because the time in that point of the game, I didn't know that you can open up doors, and I didn't know that that was an area I can even go into. So I spent a lot of wasted hours trying to be able to like get to a certain point, die, go all the way around again, and keep doing that, going the long way multiple times to get to that point, until I was so frustrated that I was like, I'm gonna try maybe this way. And then I eventually found actually an area where that stairwell, where it was a lot of enemies there. It was actually more enemies than what I had in the original path I took. And I probably wouldn't have been able to find that area and find that it was a shortcut because there was nothing there that told me that I could be able to see it. And that's something that is physically affecting my own my disability, got in the way from me being able to discover that for myself without having to spend many failed attempts and frustrating hours trying to be able to get to a certain point. Now, a lot of people can say, oh, that's kind of part of the game. That's part of the difficulty, is when you find these shortcuts that can be able to make the game a little bit more enjoyable and comfortable to play. And I would actually argue that yes, that can be the point, but my time and frustration and my abilities and my disability getting in the way would have basically made it much harder for me to discover that for myself because of my physical disability, and that attributed to my frustration with the game, and that is part of the problem with this game's inaccessibility. So we talked about that. So what can be done to be able to make this genre accessible? Now, I don't want to be able to presume or offer options or ideas for developers to be able to do that, because I want them to be as creative as possible when trying to be able to come up with it. And also, I'm not a game designer. I don't know the ins and outs of game design to a point where I could be able to offer solutions that would be best for all players. I like it when developers can be able to experiment and figure that out. But I do have an idea that is sort of general that I think would be benefit and would hopefully move this genre forward in trying to be able to make this accessible. We've talked about many times this past year or even the past few years of wanting to be able to have games with more accessibility options. And we've seen that a lot this year with several games like The Last of Us, Watch Dogs Legion, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where there is a plethora of amazing accessibility options and settings you can turn on or off or adjust as you see fit, and that'll make the gameplay a lot more comfortable for a disabled player to be able to enjoy the challenge and the game itself. But accessibility is more than just options. Accessibility, when is integrated into the gameplay itself, when it allows the game to be more accessible to more than just one type of player, that's where accessibility shines, along with all the other options. And a lot of people argue that, well, this game isn't made for everyone. This game isn't made for those who with disabilities. And I would argue, to a certain degree, there are definitely players that will not want to be able to play this game that this game is not made for. There are players such as only playing Nintendo games, or players that only play games on their phone, or play the occasional game here and there on an Xbox or a PlayStation, and may not want to be able to seek this genre out. However, there are players that love this genre, that want to be able to play this game, but are also disabled. So this game, yes, is made for those players, but when the game is not accessible to those players, that is essentially locking out and those players from being able to enjoy the same experience that you have when you're playing this game. So in conclusion, an easy mode is not the solution. An easy mode is not the problem with this game being inaccessible. What is the problem is a lot of times developers will try to integrate accessibility later on in the process, but don't actually integrate it into the overall design of the core gameplay. So what you can do is you can be able to integrate that from the very beginning. When you think about accessibility in the design process, you can still be able to attempt to keep the same challenge of what you're going for, but make it so that disabled players can still enjoy that same challenge. And it just opens this up to a much larger audience so that we can all be challenged and enjoy this difficulty of the game. So with that being said, I am fully prepared to say if I am like, there is a lot to this conversation. There is a lot that I couldn't be able to put into this video, because this genre of games is essentially a masterclass in game design. There is a lot of complexity here that is a lot to unpack. And there's also a lot of complexity in trying to be able to make this genre accessible. And I am nervous about putting this video out because I'm afraid of the circular nature of this argument may spark up again, and may kind of there may be sort of vitriol kind of thrown my way because of this video. I hope that's not the case, and I hope that if you're watching this and you are angry about what I said, or you're very particular about either this game should not have difficulty options, this game should not be accessible, or no, these games would be better with accessibility options in order to be able to make it accessibility. I hope that at least we can be able to come together in the middle and figure out a way that we can have this discussion and try to figure out how to be able to make this genre accessible. I hope that we can have at least a constructive and productive conversation around this. I basically feel like that the fighting needs to stop. And I don't know if this video will help in that regard or hurt in that regard. I just wanted to be able to share my thoughts and my emotions after playing this game and understanding what this game is about, but still wanting to be able to try to be able to make it this genre as accessible to disabled players that weren't able to before. I hope that makes sense, and I hope if you have any questions or comments, please leave a comment in YouTube comments down below, or hit me up on Twitter at Steve Saylor. I really do hope that there is going to be a productive conversation, and I am afraid still to be able to put out this video because I don't know whether or not this is going to be hurting the conversation or shedding some light on the conversation. I hope it's the latter, but I don't know. So I apologize if the comments or like after this video is out is still kind of in that circular kind of argument about this. That wasn't my intention when creating this video. I just wanted to be able to share an epiphany I had with this and trying to be able to come into the middle of this conversation. So hopefully we can have a peaceful and productive conversation about accessibility. That is it. Oh, that's a lot to get through. I hope this makes sense. I hope this whole thing makes sense. As I'm recording this, I don't know what this video is going to be like for you watching. So I hope that I was able to get my point across in a way that is understandable. So I'm scared to still even do this. But if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to be able to see more of my videos, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified as to when new videos come out, hit the bell notification icon. Thank you so much for watching this entire video. I apologize. I don't know if it's long or short. I don't know. I haven't edited this yet. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And as always, I remain obediently yours. Bye.